Thought I was ready until they went. I have come to know God to be the God of the great exchange. 7 months ago, my life changed forever. Concepts such as certainty, stability, consistency, always, and absolute have taken on a whole new meaning in my life. March the 29th, 2013. Some call it Good Friday. I guess it was a Good Friday. I was sitting at the dining room table in my house, eating a bowl of Honey Nut Cheerios, minding my own business. Good Friday morning, until I get a phone call from my mother. And you know, sometimes I get phone calls from my mom and I ignore those calls because I'm not quite ready to take them. But something told me to pick up the phone on Friday, March the 29th. And when I picked up the phone, all I heard from my mom was, "Lily, I tried to resuscitate your dad." And in my mind, I know that the words tried means unsuccessful. And so for about 30 to 45 seconds, I freaked out. I went into anxiety, and all I could say over and over and over to my mom was, "What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean?" Because my mom had just said to me, "I tried to resuscitate your dad." And that is all she could say. But I knew that at 26 years old, tried meant unsuccessful. And in that moment of anxiety, I didn't know what to do. I fell on the ground, I flipped out, I freaked out, and I'm on the phone with my mom, and all I could say is, "What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean?" And immediately, God brought back a memory to my mind. Immediately, the God of the great exchange took me from anxiety to peace in about 30 to 45 seconds. And he gave me a vision of literally 2 days prior, I was sitting in that exact same seat in my dining room, and I saw a picture of myself eulogizing my father. And I had no idea what that meant. I thought I was tripping. Like, who just sits at the dining room table and sees themselves performing their own dad's funeral? And I thought literally that I had tripped out. I had freaked out. I'm like, what am I thinking about? This is crazy. That was Wednesday. Friday morning, my mom calls me and tells me, "I tried to resuscitate your dad." And in that moment, a sense of peace came over me, and I moved from anxiety and fear and worry to peace. It was because in that moment, I remember sitting in a meeting at work, and a woman was telling a story, and in that story, she said, "God is already in my tomorrow, anticipating my arrival." And in that moment, it sounded good, so it was a nice quote that I wrote down in my quote book, and I figured, I would use someday later in life. I had no idea that quote, that God is already in my tomorrow, anticipating my arrival, I would have to apply to losing my dad at 26 years old. But in the moment that my mom called me and told me that my dad died, God brought back a vision to me of me eulogizing my father. And that was God's way of showing me that he was already 2 days ahead of me. He was already 3 months ahead of me. He was 7 months ahead of me. And even now, he's 5 years ahead of me, and he's 10 years ahead of me. But in 30 seconds, the Holy Spirit did in me what he needed to do to remind me that God is already in my arrival, God is already in my tomorrow, anticipating my arrival. And as I stand here before you guys and talk to you about losing my dad, please don't be confused. It has been the worst 7 months of my life. It has been the most difficult. It has been the most painful. It has been the most confusing 7 months of my life. But I am confident, and I have a peace in knowing that if God can show me 2 days prior to my dad's death that I will be eulogizing my father, that he can take care of the rest of my life. And so I leave you guys with this. It was funny, I was sitting here getting ready to come up here with my notes on my iPad, and my iPad breaks down. I'm like, oh my gosh, and I text messaged my brother, and I said, Alan, I'm freaking out. My notes, what am I gonna do? And he said, God is Emmanuel, he's with you, Liana. And I think about the fact that we always say God is Emmanuel and Jesus is with us. But what God has reminded me is not only am I with you, Liana, but I'm already in your tomorrow, anticipating your arrival.
Biola University offers a variety of biblically centered degree programs, ranging from business to ministry to the arts and sciences. Visit biola.edu to find out how Biola could make a difference in your life.